I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliet.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry.
Hey
Hi, everybody.
It's Apologies Accepted, the
podcast.
And I'm not Theo.
And it's 2022. No, it's not. Oh, my God. It's 2023.
You're gonna be
and
doing that
I'm not Juliet. Oh, for sure. I'll do this all year.
It's still 2021 for some people. Not much going on in my world for my bacon. Not much is shaking bacon. Had a nice quiet Christmas with my husband and my puppy dog. Got some cool gifts. Got a little figurine of a greyhound, which is really sweet, and some other nice stuff I won't go into, but just a nice quiet time around the fireplace with the tree and the dog and the husband, and can't complain. It's been raining. I can complain about that. It's been raining like crazy, and there's flooding all over the Bay Area. So I was thinking about taking a little drive, maybe down to Monterey or something. But
to look at the floods.
To look at the floods. No, to get away from sort of the flooding,
okay.
And just to see what's going on down in Monterey and get a little change of scenery. But the road 101 south in South San Francisco is flooded, so I can't go that way. I could go all the way around, but then it would take another extra hour, and that would hardly be worth it. So I'm going to stay home until the floods clear up and the rain stops. Today it's supposed to be nice, and I'm looking out the window. It's sunny and clear, but it's supposed to start raining again tomorrow. So that's my exciting week. What's shaking bacon for you?
Wow. Well, let's see. We had Christmas. We had New Year's. Apparently, I time traveled back to the year 2021 because it's 2022 for me. Yeah. But, family came in from Scotland, and we've had Christmas together, New Year's together. And I love them. Mm-hmm. I am tired. Oh my God, am I tired? I've forgotten.
Well, you've had other guests too, like over the holidays, so it's kind of been nonstop socializing for you.
It has been nonstop socializing, and that is the thing that I am not used to anymore. Like, I've been out, I've been socializing, I've gone places, I've seen people, but our lives pre-COVID were a lot more social, and this holiday season, sort of like we fell back into that, where it was like, oh, everybody's having a party. Everybody's having a dinner. Everybody wants to have coffee, like everybody.
Wow.
And so I am very much looking forward to just sitting on the couch, maybe today, and watching TV, and everyone's just going to have to figure stuff out without me. Sorry, I can't take you to the mall. I'm watching TV. Sorry, I can't do those dishes. I'm watching TV. But yeah, so it was, nice, very, homey, very low key. We watched New Year's Eve roll in on TV, right?
Yeah.
Here I am complaining about how busy I am with my social life. And then I stayed home and watched TV.
Doing all the stuff on TV.
But those people on TV are pretty social. So, yeah, so very nice. And it's been time away from work, which has been great. And so it's just a lot of like, really nice sort of unpacking of all of the day to day and disconnecting. For as busy as we have been, it's been, what am I trying to say? It's been busy doing things we don't normally do. And so it's been nice. Reality will be here in 2 days, and then boom, I'll be complaining about like normal life stuff again. So for right now, everything's great.
I just remembered I have to take the tree down, so I've got to do that sometime soon.
I did that 4 days ago.
Already? Oh my God!
Yeah,
wow,
everything.
Very efficient.
Well, so I usually love to decorate for Christmas, like I'm somebody's grandmother, and the long lost grandchild is coming back to my house to celebrate Christmas, right? So Christmas pillows, Christmas candles, Christmas candy, Christmas dishes. Just take any noun and put the word Christmas in front of it. And that's what I have. right? And so James was like, the house doesn't seem like it's overly decorated for Christmas. I thought you were going to go crazy. And I was like, nah, I don't want to beat Linda and Eve over the head with like Christmas, 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 Christmas. So just enough, stuff out and about to make it feel like Christmas. And that made it easy to take down. So I think I'm now a fan of the minimalist Christmas. Yeah.
We'll see next year how that goes.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But so, yeah, Christmas is over, and now New Year's is over, and here I am saying how much I love the holidays, and it's like, done. Good. Okay.
Done. Over. Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Well, speaking of sitting on the couch watching TV, have you seen Harry and Meghan?
Speaking of Harry and Meghan, yes, I did. And I have. Not the whole thing. I watched the last episode. And I listened to a bunch of podcasts about Meghan Markle primarily, right?
Yes.
Because Harry and Meghan, it's only about Meghan.
Oh, is it?
Basically, yeah.
I didn't see it, obviously.
Oh, sorry. So let me rephrase all that. Not the documentary, right? But more the topic.
Netflix series you didn't see?
I did not watch all 6 episodes.
Okay.
Only watched number 6. I was like, how does it end? Let's get to that.
Does she live?
Right. No, it's we'll just say it's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
Even for those of us who don't particularly care about the royal family,
right?
We still know more details about the royal family and Harry and Meghan than you would want to.
And that's even just seeing just the one part. You say it's more than you need, which is what I figured and why I didn't watch it. So I don't care about them. I don't want to know about their relationship with the media or the royal family or any of it. It's just they're incredibly privileged people who have an amazing life, I'm sure, although it's not. I'm sure there are major problems that go along with that amazing life, but I'm personally not interested.
I'm going to say I did not want to watch the series for everything you just said. Right?
Yeah.
Not really interested. I don't really care. It's sad for them. Happy for them. Whatever for them. I don't care. Mm-hmm. And so I listened to a bunch of podcasts to prep for this episode. It's like, find out some stuff about Harry and Meghan and some of the backstory or whatever. And I will say that like the universe of royal watchers is a pretty intense place. These people who have absolutely no relation and no relationship either with these, no personal connection, are so invested that they cry, right? Like cry over this. And okay, we all have hobbies. I get it. Sure, right? I cry over stuff. Fine. And so it was when I say everything about Harry and Meghan is about Meghan, I mean, it ends up becoming about Meghan, right? Which is grossly unfair, but it's just where people gravitate to, right? And so the podcasts were exactly what I expected they would be, which was a lot of like, oh my God, her dress was so amazing at that one premiere that she went to. It's beautiful, la, la, la. Oh, she looks so great, la, la, la. Oh, she's conniving. The alternate thing. But one of the podcasts was talking about the docuseries, and I was like, all right, great. If I listen to this, I won't have to watch that. And this is 30 minutes, and that's 6 hours. And basically what they said was, which was probably the most sensible thing I heard out of the royal universe, right, was, oh, you should watch it for yourself and form your own opinion. We can tell you what we think about it. But, and I was like, oh, God damn it. That means I have to watch it. So I watched episode number 6, and I am going to say I actually enjoyed it. I would not want to watch all 6 hours, but very well done. And I thought kind of honest. And I will get into our opinions about like Harry and Meghan and this media circus. But I felt like this is genuine, like what they're going through and what they say they're going through is very visible in the press. And so our topic today being Jeremy, that's it. That's how you say his name, Theo. Jeremy Clarkson, apologizing for upsetting people.
Right.
Really just goes to prove the very thing that Harry and Meghan say is the problem that they're facing, right? The thing that drove them away from the royal family and or out of Britain. And it's just this vile hatred that's directed at her specifically.
Yeah. It is. And do you think that the hatred is because she's part black?
So what a great question that I did ask family members.
Interesting.
Well, yes, I thought so too. And then alarming, not alarming, but alarming. So I asked, so for new listeners, my husband's family is Scottish. They live outside of Glasgow. They're Scottish, right? And they're not really royalist, but they're also not, I forget what it's called, but they're not members of like Scottish freedom either, right? They sort of like the way things are. We're part of England, we're part of Britain, just leave it. But the English aren't awesome people, right? So there's not a lot of love for England, but there's also not a lot of direct hatred for England.
Okay.
Probably the way Canada feels about the U.S., right?
You mean England?
No. The way Canada feels about the U.S. is the way Scotland feels about England.
Okay.
If that makes sense, right? Sort of like, You can't ignore it. It's there. It impacts your life. Don't love everything they do, but they're also not awful, blah. Okay. So I did ask, hey, what do you think about Meghan Markle? And the answer was, hate her.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
why?
Okay, why? Were you there? And the answer was, and I think this gets to what Meghan Markle is feeling coming out of Britain, right? So the answer was, she was welcomed with open arms. She was going to be the new Diana, right? She was going to be the new fascinating princess. And instead, she hated everything about Britain and left.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true. I don't have any idea if that's true at all.
Well,
I have obviously not been following this in any way.
I will say that there was a lot of excitement around Meghan Markle joining the royal family at the time, and that the papers were very positive. And I don't know what shifted, let me rephrase that. I know what shifted. I don't know why it shifted specifically. But something shifted and it went straight from, oh, she's so beautiful to, she looked at Princess Kate the wrong way. Oh, she's so jealous. She's not going to be queen. Right. And so it went from fact-based reporting on the dress she was wearing or the event she attended to speculative reporting about what she's thinking and what she's doing, right?
So that would seem to indicate that it's not about race.
Well, that's where I go to, right? So I did also ask my family, do you think this is racial? And the answer was absolutely not. And then I said, well, I think there are elements of racism that are playing into this, because I do, right? And nothing's ever 100% one thing. So, is it racism? Sure. Is it also Meghan Markle maybe wasn't her own best friend at certain times? Sure, maybe. I don't know enough about it to be having a podcast about it. But the resistance that I got from that statement showed me that Britain is very much where the U.S. still is / was with racism, right? And that is the definition of racism is violence directed towards people of color. It's not crossing the street because a person of color is coming your way. Right?
Is it though?
No, it's not, right? But I'm saying I have family members that also hold the same.
I see. People feel that's the definition of racism.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm
right.
with you there.
Okay. So racism is physical violence against people of color, or it's
because they're black, or
outright
whatever.
not hiring somebody because they're a person of color. But but going a little bit deeper, and we'll use the hiring metaphor, right, or analogy. It's that, okay, this person of color is highly qualified for the job. Maybe they're overqualified, right? Mm-hmm. And then, okay, well, maybe I'm going to end up hiring this white person. And you don't recognize that what you've done is you don't have any people of color that work for your small company, and you kind of didn't want to disrupt the boat or whatever. So you let a highly qualified candidate go. Maybe you even did it because you thought, well, they're not going to be comfortable working in our environment because everyone around here is white, right? It's a benign racism or whatever. So I really think that's what was going on. It's that the definition of what is racism is still very much a 2010 definition of what is racism.
Right. Got it.
But who knows,
So yeah, it's hard to pick out what is at root of the hatred for Meghan. But clearly, people hate her. I mean, a lot of people do. I don't know if she has an equal number of people who support her, but I haven't heard about it. If she does, she doesn't have like her fan base or whatever. You don't really hear about people being Meghan Markle fans.
Well, no, but then also she has a lot of support in Hollywood. So one of the things that I learned from watching episode 6 of Harry and Meghan, the Netflix docuseries I get, was when things were real. So they were living in the UK, right? Yeah. She went over, the princess, everything's amazing, great wedding, and then all of a sudden it's, she wants to be queen, right? And I think some of the hatred for sure is racism, but I also think some of it is just simply classism. Yeah. Right?
But that would affect everyone in the royal family equally, and it seems like Kate Middleton isn't hated as much as Meghan.
She's not hated as much, but she was also raised within a culture that understands what that institution is. And it's one thing, and this is something that you'll hear a lot in the UK, right? That Meghan Markle knew what she was doing when she married into the royal family, which means she knew who she was marrying, and she knew what that came with. We all know what happened to Princess Diana. We all know about paparazzi. None of that's going to be a surprise. Living with the reality of it, a bit of a different, probably becomes a surprise. You think you think you can handle it. You even had a certain amount of fame and money in your own private life before you married into the royal family, meaning Meghan Markle having been a TV actress. She probably had a nice chunk of change and had some photographers following her around sometimes because she was a celebrity. But so she marries into the royal family, and it becomes this whole other thing because the family, sort of the idea about the royal family is that when they're out in public, they put on a facade, right? And then when they're behind closed doors, they can finally relax and be themselves. And apparently it's not the case. They actually are what you see in public, right? And so Meghan Markle marries into this. Things go sort of misfire. There's a bit about the letter that she wrote her father that becomes very public. I don't know if you know that, but it'll end up being an important part of our story today. So Meghan Markle goes from darling of the press to, the whore that's wrecking England, basically.
Right.
And her father, who's an American citizen, didn't help matters because he was constantly talking to the press, right? Constantly, I don't know that he was selling photos of his daughter, but it was about that level of, bad behavior from a parent who likes the media attention that he's receiving. And so Meghan wrote her dad a private letter that was basically like, hey, Dad, I can't invite you to the wedding because you're being an asshole, and I don't appreciate you running around telling private stories and selling,
selling stories to the press,
making money off of me. Please stop.
Sure.
And that letter gets sold to the press. Yeah, right. And so that gets published, and she becomes even more hated, right? Because look at the rift that she's having with her father, and the relationship's falling apart with her family, and just terrible. And so, in the midst of all of this, getting back to Meghan Markle fans, she gets a call from Tyler Perry, and I don't know if I see your eyebrows go up.
Who he is.
Okay, cool.
That's interesting.
Yes, he'd sent her a letter which basically had said, hey, I see what you're going through with your dad, and I can see how very public it is, and I don't know you, but I had an issue with my own parent, my own father, so, like, I get it, and if you ever need someone to talk to, here I am.
Oh, that's nice.
Right, totally. I'm going to say I'd never thought much of Tyler Perry, one way or the other, but I would say my opinion probably leaned a little more on the negative side than on the positive side. Him personally, completely have changed my mind. So, which is very important to Tyler Perry to know that. So he calls her and says, "How are you doing?" And she breaks down crying, and which makes her sound hysterical. But in the documentary, as she's recounting the story, and as Tyler Perry is recounting the story, she says, sometimes it's easier to tell someone that you don't know what's troubling you, right? Yeah. And so Tyler Perry says, all of your fears are valid, so let me help you. I have a house. It's secluded. You'll be fine. Right. And she says, well, I don't know. Maybe we'd love to take you up on that, and we'll be out of the house as soon as we can, maybe a week. Right. And he's like, no, listen, you can just live there for as long as you need, because you have particular needs, which involve security, finances to pay for security. And things had gotten so tough for Harry and Meghan that the royal family, when they decided they were going to step away from their official duties, cut them off financially, right?
Oh, and I didn't realize that.
One hand, it does make sense, right? Which is, hey, you get an allowance, a very generous allowance, right, for going to charity events and being involved in things and lending your voice to charitable causes, right? And being a public servant, being a figure in the public eye. But if you don't want to do that anymore, then you don't get that money. That does make sense, right?
Yeah, sure.
But also, if you're not going to be a member of the royal family, then you don't get the free private security that we give to members of, because now you're no longer an official member, right? So they had to pay for their own security details, right? Security is expensive. And so Tyler Perry sends a jet, and I left out a bit. Once they lost their private security detail, and they were no longer officially living on the royal grounds, because that's only open to official members of the royal family, they had moved to Vancouver, and they were living in a house there, and their address became public. And so they had no real security, not to the level that they had, right?
Yeah.
And so there's like a Ring doorbell video, right?
Yeah.
Of some random guy just walking up the pathway to their front door and peeking inside, right? Because he knows that's where Harry and Meghan live. Maybe I'll see them. Maybe they'll invite me in, right? And so Tyler Perry flies them to California, and they go to his house, one of his many houses, and nobody knows where they are. And so they get 6 weeks to, like, sort of have privacy and breathe. So when I say, like, she has Hollywood supporters, it's more than just like, oh, I really like you, Meghan. It's, hey, I'll send my jet for you, and you can live in my house, and we've never met. Right?
Wow.
So, yeah, totally, completely amazing. So are there fans out there? For sure, right? But I think more important, there's help out there for them.
Well, that's good.
I will say I do think sometimes it can be a little whiny hearing them talk about their issues. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, their issues are real. So
yeah,
I guess you have a reason to whine.
Yeah, they probably need better PR. Yeah. So anyway, so the second half of the Netflix series was released on December 15th, and the next day, the actual topic of our podcast. Now that we're half an hour into it, Jeremy Clarkson, Jeremy Clarkson, who's a well-known British columnist, he writes for the British tabloid The Sun, and he also writes for the Sunday Times, and I think he does some other stuff here and there as well. Anyway, he responded to the Netflix series release with a column in The Sun, all about how much he hates Meghan. And he said things like, "At night, I'm unable to sleep as I lie there grinding my teeth and dreaming of the day when she is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain while the crowds can't chant shame and throw lumps of excrement at her." So, have you seen Game of Thrones?
Duh. I have eyes.
I haven't. Is this
Stop.
actually a scene from Game of Thrones?
Yes. It's when Cersei, I think that was her name. It's been a while since I've seen Game of Thrones. The Queen... or it doesn't matter. Royal figure, right? Very high. I think she was the actual queen of the realm. Whatever she did, and some of it was she had sex with her brother, and I think she got caught with that too. But yeah, I mean, it's Game of Thrones. It was pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
But so her head's shaved, and she is paraded through the town, and people throw excrement at her and shout shame. And this was a penance that she had to perform in order to be released from her guilt or whatever, right? And so it was really about the church sort of keeping, it doesn't matter, Theo, who cares, Game of Thrones stuff. So yes, that is an actual scene.
So it was a scene from Game of Thrones.
And the actress did walk naked through the streets, right?
Okay.
And so I totally got the reference when
you did.
Jeremy
When he said it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I totally got the reference.
Not
Probably
that makes it any better.
not the most elegant way to. Well, it's problematic.
Yeah, to say the least. And then he went on to say, everyone who's my age thinks the same way. But what makes me despair is that younger people, especially girls, think she's pretty cool. They think she was a prisoner of Buckingham Palace, forced to talk about nothing but embroidery and kittens. And then he said he hated her on a cellular level more than he hated Scotland's First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. Poor Nicola Sturgeon. She didn't do anything wrong. And serial killer Rose West. So, I mean, that's pretty harsh.
It's pretty harsh, and also, why?
Exactly. Well, he's got a reputation. So Clarkson was fired in 2015 as host of a car show on the BBC after punching a producer. And he's also punched Piers Morgan, insulted various races, and publicly used the N-word. He has 2 Amazon Prime Video series, one called The Grand Tour, which is probably car-related, and one called Clarkson's Farm. So he has a farm, right? And I guess this is about his farm. And he has a farm store, which has been closed since a week after the publication of the article where he talked about making Meghan walk through the streets naked. And he also hosts Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for ITV. ITV said there are no plans to take action following the column, while Amazon has yet to comment about the forthcoming season. And an Instagram, what? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just like, yeah.
He's got a reputation for being a hothead.
He's a dick.
Him writing an article
but he's a funny dick sometimes.
I've never seen him be funny, so I read some references to people saying that he was funny, so I'll accept that.
Well, I don't know if you'll laugh, but I think it was the Grand Tour, he's driving a Jeep Wrangler, right? And so all of his whatever the car thing was, I would catch a couple of episodes of Top Gear, not on purpose, but it was watchable, right? And it was like 3 guys. And they would tell you about cars and engines and things about cars. And then they would test drive a car, right? And it was always a different car. But sometimes it would be things like a Yugo, right? Here's an old Yugo. Let's try it out. Right. And the history of the car or whatever. So it could be interesting. And then one of the guys was gay, but he wasn't out yet, older guy. And they got on. It was like a buddy show. It was fun. It was all right. And anyway, so he's driving a Jeep Wrangler, and one of his colleagues says to him, "Oh, you know, that's like the official car for gay people. You're so brave to be driving it." And he made some jokes or whatever, right? And a popular singer who's gay, this guy named Will Young, I think it's Will Young, said something like, "Oh, those comments were homophobic." And I mean, sure, because they were playing like music over the banter, and it was like the music's "It's Raining Men," right? And so it was, gay, fun, right? Gay people are funny, yes, and sure, yes. So anyway, he said, "Hey, listen, Will Young, I am, sorry if you were offended, and I'm sorry to anybody who was offended. It was just fun, and I can assure you that I am not homophobic. I enjoy watching lesbians on the internet." And that was funny.
I guess.
I mean, not my joke, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a common thing that men say when they claim to not be homophobic.
Right.
And it's kind of dumb. And I don't know if it's funny, but I understand that people think he's funny, so that's cool. So certain people have come out against his column. His daughter is one of them. She's a podcast host. I don't know what kind of podcast she has, but her name is Emily Clarkson. And she said she wanted to make it very clear that I stand against everything my dad wrote about Meghan Markle. My views are and have always been clear when it comes to misogyny, bullying, and the treatment of women by the media.
Yay.
Do you know what podcast she does?
I do not.
Okay, I should have looked it up, but I didn't. I was curious, but not curious enough. And Nicola Sturgeon, who I mentioned earlier, told The Times, "I think what he said about Meghan Markle was deeply misogynist and just downright awful and horrible." On Friday, after the column came out, The Sun apologized for running the column and removed the article from its website and archives, supposedly at Clarkson's request, noting in a post to its website that the column had provoked a strong response. The statement said, "Columnists' opinions are their own, but as a publisher, we realize that with free expression comes responsibility. We at The Sun regret the publication of this article, and we are sincerely sorry." Now, I doubt that they're sorry, because they didn't have to publish the freaking article in the first place, and they thought it was fine for publication, and then when people, I mean, it's just all about getting attention, like everything else these days.
Everything there, right? Because Jeremy Clarkson does not sit down and write an article that just gets straight published online, right?
Yeah.
Or plopped into print, right?
Right.
It goes through an editorial process. It goes through several hands.
Yeah.
It gets approved. There's a whole chain of command because nobody ever wants to be the single person held accountable for a mistake.
Yeah.
And right and fair. So several people read that before it was published, and they all agreed with it. I don't know if they agreed with the sentiment, but they agreed that it should be published as is.
Yeah, absolutely. They read that paragraph about having her paraded through the streets, and they thought, well, this will get some attention, so they probably published it for that reason. In a letter signed by more than 60 MPs addressed to The Sun's editor, Victoria Newton, Caroline Noakes, a Conservative Party member and chair of Parliament's Women and Equalities Committee, called the column's retraction welcomed and declared an apology to Markle be issued immediately. The mayor of London took to Twitter to offer his own condemnation of Clarkson, writing, "As Jeremy Clarkson should well know, words have consequences. The words in his piece are no joke. They're dangerous and inexcusable. We are in an epidemic of violence against women and girls, and men with powerful voices must do better than this." So as of December 26th, the BBC reported that more than 12,000 complaints were filed to IPSO, which was the Independent Press Standards Organization, over what Clarkson said in his column. By comparison, a total of 14,000 complaints were filed in all of 2021. So almost that many complaints were filed just about this one particular article. And I guess nothing's going to be done about it except they took the article down. So
They took the article down. And good for them. That was the thing to do. And then, issued an apology. That's what they called it.
Well, sort of. Yeah, they did issue an apology. You're right.
Yeah. And, and that will be that. That's the end of that. So nothing will happen to Clarkson, right?
No. And Clarkson, the next Monday, actually addressed the response, but he didn't apologize. He said, he tweeted a comment saying, "Oh dear, I'd rather put my foot in it. In a column I wrote about Meghan, I made a clumsy reference to a scene in Game of Thrones, and this has gone down badly with a great many people. I'm horrified to have caused so much hurt, and I shall be more careful in future," which is bullshit.
It's totally bullshit, and just starting with "oh dear."
Oh dear.
Right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
absolutely belittles all of the concern that was raised, right? Or dismisses for sure. Oh dear. I'm sure that Jeremy Clarkson, who loves watching lesbians on the internet, is not the sort of guy that says, "oh dear."
No. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not a natural phrase for him. So he's doing it to be a dick.
Yes. And Meghan Markle's a spokesperson for Meghan Markle slammed Clarkson's statement, saying the fact that the Sun has not contacted the Duchess of Sussex to apologize shows their intent. This is nothing more than a PR stunt. While the public absolutely deserves the publication's regrets for their dangerous comments, we wouldn't be in this situation if the Sun did not continue to profit off of and exploit hate, violence, and misogyny. A true apology would be a shift in their coverage and ethical standards for all. Unfortunately, we're not holding our breath. And then Talk TV Australia's royal editor Sarah Hewson said, "I think what Jeremy Clarkson's article in The Sun did, where he talked about his visceral hatred of Meghan, actually vindicated a lot of what they had said in the documentary about the things that had been written about them in the press." She added Meghan had talked about the death threats that stemmed from the kind of coverage that she had received. So I'm sure she's gotten plenty more death threats since Jeremy Clarkson wrote his column. And the whole thing is a mess. And there was no apology from Jeremy Clarkson. There was an apology from The Sun, which that apology I would give a 0 out of 10 because I feel it was insincere. And the apology from Clarkson, I can't even rate because it doesn't exist.
Agreed. And I am right there with you. I'm not even going to offer a 1 because it's a very self-serving apology. And that's just not good.
Yeah. Clarkson is truly a horrible person. He said things like serious people talking about climate change, such as Markle and Greta Thunberg, have made matters worse. He said, "When Meghan Markle told me to leave the car at home, I wanted to shoot a polar bear in the middle of its face," which is a little bit funny, but not funny at the same time. And he called her a simpering victim and a silly little cable TV actress, which is totally ridiculous. And then in his final column of the year for the Times, he said, I hope your Christmas is happy too, and that all of you except Meghan Markle have a great break." And that was after, I think, his column in The Sun. So he's just an asshole.
Well, and I'm going to say this. If you want to build your brand around how much you hate a specific person, doesn't feel like the smartest move.
No.
Right? So yeah. And he's vile. But I'll say this in regards to how what Jeremy Clarkson did proved what Meghan and Harry have been saying all along, right?
Yeah.
That the vitriol that's directed at her specifically leads to threats, right? And causes her to feel insecure. Because, I would feel that way too if I received horrible death threats. So what I think happened here is Jeremy Clarkson said what the paper itself can actually no longer say. And this all stems, and what, Thea? Why do you say that? Because the papers used to publish really, really, really vile stuff about Meghan Markle, right? Highly speculative, blah, blah, blah. Remember the letter that she wrote her father that was sold to a newspaper, or leaked to the newspaper. I don't know that it was actually sold. She sued over that. She sued for invasion of privacy and invasion of copyright because it was her letter.
Oh.
And she won, which is a very hard thing to do when you are suing a newspaper, right? It's a little easier in the UK, arguably, than it is in the United States. But it is still a very difficult task in the UK to sue a newspaper, right? And so She won. And basically, here's all the behind the scenes stuff. So when she was in England and she was drafting this letter, she sent a copy of the letter to her secretary, right? And said, this is a confidential letter. Please treat this with care. And then I didn't read the whole thing that she said. So I don't know if she was looking for feedback or, this is a copy of the draft. Please, file it away in all the places where it needs to be filed, whatever. Right. But the secretary was told that the letter was confidential and private. However, Meghan did send that message by text, and that secretary then later goes to work for Prince William after Meghan and Harry leave the UK. So her secretary is now working for Prince William. As this lawsuit against this newspaper is brewing, and it goes on for 3 years, right? As this lawsuit is dragging on, she has 2 kids. She moves to California, right? They start a production company. And the text message that she sent her secretary ended up in the newspaper's lawyer's hands, right? Oh. So the secretary gave the text to the prosecutor. Was the prosecutor or defendant? Defendant. Who, to the opposing team, right? Yeah. To damage Meghan Markle's case, which points to palace intrigue, because the secretary did not do that without the approval of Prince William. That just didn't happen, right? Because the secretary is still working there. And so when she wins this lawsuit, what this does for the British tabloids is it lets them know that you can only go so far. And so why does Jeremy Clarkson get to publish an opinion piece about Meghan Markle where he calls for her to be paraded naked through the street and have excrement thrown at her? Because the newspaper can't get so sued for that, but they can still generate revenue off of that. So that's all this is about. And we can expect a lot more opinion pieces about Meghan Markle in the UK in these shitty papers.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And, on one hand, is that the price of fame? For some people, yes, it is.
For some people.
Yeah.
But,
it hasn't been for us, but.
Yeah, fortunately. But really all she did was marry a prince. I mean, is that terrible? I don't know. She married the son of Princess Diana, right? Yeah. And she married into arguably the last remaining monarchy that holds any semblance of, I don't want to use the word power, but importance. Right? When Buckingham Palace speaks, that gets reported in the press around the world. When the Prince of Denmark speaks, only the Danish people hear about it. Right? I see what you're saying.
And so bigger than just marrying a prince, she's marrying into an institution. And the institution has a deal, I don't know this to be true, but it makes all the sense in the world, with the press. Because the press gets money off of publishing stories about the royal family, and the royal family gets to influence public sentiment through the press, right? And so it's a symbiotic relationship. They need each other to feed each other. I made that up, and that sounds so good.
Right. I don't know.
No,
well, it's poor Meghan Markle. I feel for her.
I do too. I mean, I'm going to say part of the reason why I decided to watch the episode, aside from the fact that I'm America's hero and I wanted to save you from having to do that.
Thank you.
Was I did want to just sort of reaffirm my opinion of Meghan Markle, which is I lean more on the positive side. Don't know enough about anything to have a really informed opinion, but positive, sure. And I didn't, and of course, I'm going to say I didn't see anything that changed my opinion, right?
Right.
Because
of course.
Harry and Meghan had a big hand in
Okay.
production of this piece, and they're not going to.
I see.
Right. So I think it came through their own production company. As a matter of fact, I know that it came through their own production company.
I see.
And so what are they going to do? Right. They can't go out and get jobs at Home Depot.
Right.
They can only trade off the value of their names. And so that's what they've done. And they've gotten their $100 million deal. So they're set. I mean, maybe it's not the lifestyle that Prince Harry had in the UK, right. But you got a nice house in Santa Barbara. Everything's good. Right. And so maybe they can go back to and I'll also say this. They're very active in their charities, right? They don't have to be.
No, especially now. I mean, they don't have to do anything they don't want to do.
Watch, they totally disappear now after we say, like, oh, they're great heroes for all the work they do. We got our money. Thanks, bitches. Bye.
All right.
Yeah, all right, well, that's Harry and Meghan.
That's Harry and Meghan, and we hate
Clarkson. We hate them.
So we hate Clarkson, not him, not them, just Jeremy. So I have a Who's Sorry Now, which I came up with at the last minute. And it is the Eli Lilly and the various companies that make the weight loss drugs that I'm on, because they are screwing around with their customers. They don't make enough. And this is not just Eli Lilly, but the other companies as well. So there's like 4 or 5 drugs that are GLP-1. Are they agonists? I'm not sure. Anyway, that are the new sort of class of weight loss drugs that you inject at once a week, and everyone wants to be on these drugs now, and they're not approved. I think only one is approved for weight loss, and the others are approved for diabetes, but are not can be prescribed off label for weight loss. So first off, the companies didn't make enough to meet demand, so it's been iffy trying to get hold of these drugs for the last year. So I've been on I've been on various ones because it's been difficult to get them for the last year. And not only now is it difficult to get hold of them, but the cost of them, if you can't pay for insurance, or if your insurance won't pay for it, it'll cost you about $1,500 a month to pay for these drugs. Right. And that is bad enough. But not only that, but the drug companies gave out a coupon for that would let you pay $25 a month to take these drugs, which is if insurance didn't cover it, which is obviously a huge benefit. But now, just in the last month or so, they've pulled the coupon back. So you have to pay full price now. So I expect an apology from these companies for jerking me around regarding these drugs. And they will be approved for weight loss probably at the end of next year or at the end of this year now. But that's a long time to wait. And by that time, I will have gained back all the weight I lost. So
is that the plan?
From the beginning. That's just the facts. So I want an apology. Thank you very much. You can send it to me at the address of this podcast.
You're right, exactly.
Do you have a Who's Sorry Now or apology expected?
I have an apology expected,
cool.
And it's from CNN. And apology expected for firing Kathy Griffith off of the Anderson Cooper New Year's Eve show. I tried to...
When was she fired?
Oh, because of the Trump photo.
When? Oh, back last year?
No. Several years ago.
Okay.
And so she did the Trump photo. I don't remember when that was, but then CNN immediately fired her. Like, this is horrific. Right. This is this is so awful. And New Year's Eve has never been the same since. Mm-hmm. And last night I tried to watch Anderson Cooper and the other guy, Andy Cohen. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it turned the volume down. It was so bad. It was so not interesting. I did not care when. I didn't even care that it was New Year's. That's how bad it was.
I've been reading things about, and somehow in reading about Meghan Markle, I stumbled upon some articles about Andy Cohen, and he seems like a real jerk too.
I'm gonna say not a fan. But also, the pop culture that he represents is not the pop culture that I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in any pop culture, but other than
not that sort of thing.
Exactly right. And so not a fan, but also just what I've seen and heard of him, I'm like, oh my God, you think so much of yourself.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I guess that's it for this week.
That is it for this week.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year. And
stay cool, cucumbers.
And we love you.
And we love you. Of course. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.